Good evening, gamers, and welcome back to the weekly anime recommendation. That is the War, as I'm calling it. And yeah, basically this is the show where I watch a whole bunch of anime. I sift through all the bad ones, and I come back with one good anime to recommend to you, the viewer. So today's anime is going to require a bit of a backstory, because it's a bit complicated how I got onto this anime. So I have a good friend, his name's Peevish. If you've been watching my channel for a bit, you might recognize him. He's collabed with me on occasion. He's pretty big into anime. I'm pretty big into anime. And so we're, kind of recommending some anime to each other. And he brings up this anime called Ghost Stories, right? Nothing too extraordinary there, except that he tells me I have to watch it in the dub. I'm a bit confused by this because I'm a hardcore anime guy. He's a hardcore anime guy. And we're both pretty hardcore team sub, right? We don't really like the dub. We're kind of beyond that. I feel like everyone starts out when they start watching anime, they go for the dub, and then as you sort of become stronger in your anime and you develop taste, you get away from the dub and you go to the sub, right? But he swears up and down to me I need to watch the dub of Ghost Stories. Let's just say I was not disappointed at all with what I encountered. As the story goes, in the early 2000s, this Japanese school teacher, kind of a boomer, he's talking to his students, and he notices they like telling a lot of spooky stories to each other. And he has this great idea to write them down and steal these stories into a manga and publish it and make a bunch of money, which is exactly what he did. And the manga does great. It does big numbers. Everyone loves it. It's basically Japanese Scooby-Doo. In fact, the manga does so well, it warrants an anime adaptation, which is exactly what happens. The production company picks up the manga, they make an anime adaptation out of it, and lo and behold, the anime adaptation is dog shit. They choose the most boring stories, the animation is very mid, it's just not received well at all by the public, or at least that's how the story goes. Yeah, the production company, they look at what they have in their hands and they're like, this is bad, right? So when the anime gets imported to the US to be dubbed, the original Japanese production company they don't sign a particularly stringent contract with the US dubbing company, right? They basically just say you have to use the original names of the characters, you have to kind of basically tell the story, but they don't give them an official script, they don't give them anything. So the director of the Ghost Stories dub, of the voice actors, right? He realizes this is an opportunity. So he gets a bunch of voice actors in and he tells them to do whatever the fuck they want with the story, right? So essentially, watching Ghost Stories dub is like watching a school anime crossed with Scooby-Doo, crossed with a very racy improv class, and it all just comes together so perfectly. It is so funny. You'll be just watching this anime, and I think the best thing about it is, because it's like a serious anime, the animation at least is a serious anime, things will be happening and there's like a lot of tension, like visually you're seeing a lot of tension, and the characters are just spewing like the craziest shit out of their mouths. Like you'll just be watching this like very tense emotional moment between two characters, and all of a sudden there's just like a dick joke or like a pop culture reference to like Dick Cheney, or like I don't even know how to describe it, just all kinds of crazy things that were going on in the early 2000s are just being like thrown at you left and right. It is like the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. That being said, it's not really for everyone. If you're the kind of person that doesn't like kind of that early 2000s edgy humor, you probably won't like the Ghost Stories dub. One thing I do like about it is the kind of jokes that they have are very varied. Like they tend to be pretty offensive, but they tend to kind of target everyone kind of equally. So there's something in it for everyone. There's pop culture references, there's fourth wall breaks. Oh my goodness, there's so many sexual innuendos, it's hard to watch sometimes. It really is fun to watch, and I think the best thing about it is you can tell everyone involved was having fun with it. You can tell everyone enjoyed making the project, and it's such a joy to watch. It really, really is. Another thing that I think is really funny is I found myself actually paying attention to the story more than I think I would have if the characters and the voice acting was completely serious. It was weird. It was like, because everything was so funny and I was engaged and paying attention, when like big moments would happen in the story, I was actually sort of like invested. It was like crazy because the story's not good. The story's not good at all. But because I'm like entertained, it made it like way better. Yeah, so I'm sorry because this isn't like really a real recommendation in terms of like the anime's not really a real anime. It's mostly just a gag, but I still really enjoyed it. I had a good time watching it. I mean, it's Japanese Scooby-Doo with a bunch of like adult jokes thrown in. Like, what's not to like about it? So that brings me to my recommendation score. So in terms of like characters, the characters are like so static and boring. I can't imagine how they could be any more static and boring than they are. So I'm gonna give that a 1 out of 5. Really, really bad. The story is so formulaic. You can basically predict everything that's gonna happen in every single like episode. I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna spoil it for you. Essentially, at the beginning, you're gonna like somebody's gonna be killed or something like kind of spooky happens. The characters like notice this ghost, and then they have to put the ghost in ghost jail. That's the plot of every single episode. It's so unoriginal. It hurts my brain to watch, if not for the jokes. The jokes like save it. So I'm gonna give that a 1 out of 5. In terms of animation, I kind of like the animation. I'm gonna be nice and give that a 4 out of 5 because it has that kind of retro 90s like anime vibe where it's very well animated and very retro, bright clear colors, all that jazz. So I'll give it a 4 out of 5. It is kind of a pleasure to watch at times. And finally, for the anime cringe category, there really isn't any cringe. Like, if there is any cringe, it comes from the voice actors. So I'll give it a 5 out of 5. I'll be nice. And I'm going to throw in a bonus category, comedy. And I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 because it is so funny. If you're at all into like early 2000s humor or at all into like kind of edgy humor, this show's for you. Like it's so funny and it's a great entertainment. It gave me so much fun watching it. Like just give it a watch. Just give it a watch. And I will say the jokes get a little old at times. Like a lot of the jokes are very much of the same category. It's either, like I said, pop culture references or the same sexual innuendos or the same jokes about characters. It's a good time. Like whenever I have like a bad day, I would just put it on and it would just instantly make me laugh. But yeah, so this has been my recommendation. I hope you like it if you're into that kind of thing. It was a good time. And yeah, so that's been the weekly anime recommendation. Please subscribe if you want to see any more of me and my awesome, excellent, exquisite taste in anime. And I will see you next week on the weekly anime recommendation. Take care.